Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American supernatural horror film from 2025, titled Rosario. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. At her first communion party in her immigrant family's small Brooklyn apartment in 1999, Oscar Fuentes promises his daughter, Rosario, that she won't have to struggle the way he and her mother did. Rosario goes to her grandmother Griselda's room to call her over so they can pray. However, she is disturbed to see a black substance, maggots, and blood on a curtain, and she realizes that Griselda has been secretly performing strange blood rituals. Just as Rosario tries to leave, Griselda stops her, and says something cryptic to Rosario before sending her away. During the family prayers, Griselda joins them, but Rosario can't shake the feeling that something is wrong with her grandmother. In the present day, Rosario is now a successful stockbroker living in Manhattan, no longer staying with her parents. She ignores several phone calls from her grandmother as she gets ready for work. At her firm, Rosario is approached by Miguel, a driver who wants to invest more money with his wife. He asks if she can schedule a time to meet with them, but Rosario tells him that her firm doesn't allow her to take on clients who haven't met the minimum investment threshold. Inside her office, Rosario hears news of a massive storm approaching, and authorities are warning people to stay indoors for their safety. On her way to catch the train home, Rosario finally answers her grandmother's call, but to her shock, it's not Griselda on the line. It's Marty, the superintendent of Griselda's building, who tells her that her grandmother has died. Since Rosario lives nearby, she agrees to stop by the apartment, and she calls her father, who now lives in New Jersey, to let him know what happened. During their conversation, it becomes clear that Rosario hadn't seen much of Griselda since her parents' divorce. When that happened, Rosario chose to side with her father, which caused a rift between her and her mother's side of the family, and now, her mother is gone too. Not wanting Rosario to be alone with Griselda's body before the ambulance arrives, her father offers to meet her at her grandmother's apartment. As Rosario arrives at the train station, she suddenly hears Griselda's voice through her earbuds, softly apologizing and asking for forgiveness. Moments later, she sees a haunting vision of her deceased mother. Her mother's decayed body appears before vanishing into thin air. Rosario makes her way to Griselda's rundown apartment, where Marty lets her in so she can wait for the medics to collect the body. When Rosario asks how her grandmother died, Marty explains that he found her lying on the floor in one of the rooms, probably from a bad fall. While they're inside, Marty is startled to see candles he had blown out earlier has somehow reignited on their own. While alone in the room, Rosario notices her grandmother's decaying corpse and sees strange scars on the body. Moments later, she spots an ambulance approaching and rushes to the window to flag it down, but to her surprise, it drives right past the building. She calls 911, but the operator informs her that the ambulance had to respond to a life-threatening emergency elsewhere, and she'll need to wait for the next available unit. Just then, Rosario notices the candles that Marty had blown out earlier mysteriously relights on their own. As a train rumbles by in the distance, the entire building begins to shake, and Griselda's body suddenly tumbles off the bed. Rosario places a piece of clothing beneath the body and drags it to a safer part of the room. Moment later, she notices a maggot slowly crawling out from the corpse. Rosario tries to wipe the maggot off, but it suddenly burrows beneath her skin through a burned scar on the palm of her hand. Horrified, she managed to remove it before it can reach her brain. A sudden knock at the door startles her, which turns out to be Joe, a neighbor who claims to have been friends with Griselda. He has come to ask for his air fryer, and suspicious of the coughing man, Rosario tells him she'll bring it to him once she finds it. Surprisingly, Joe oddly knows about the scar on her hand, but Rosario hastily dismisses him. Behind bloody garments in Griselda's closet, Rosario discovered a locked door. She found the key on the corpse and used it to unlock the locked door, revealing a secret chamber where occult rituals had been performed. Inside, she found an idol named Kobe and, along with several skulls, a cauldron, baby teeth, hair, and a used tampon that had been taken from her when she was younger. Terrified, Rosario fled the building despite a harsh winter storm and a citywide curfew. She heads to the train station, where she is forced to run after spotting a security guard with a dog. While trying to escape through a locked gate, a supernatural force grabs her and slams her head against it. Despite this, Rosario manages to get away from the dog and return back to the apartment. Through her research online, Rosario learns that Griselda was practicing Palo Mayombe, a mystical religion that blends African traditions with Latin American Catholicism. Realizing that the dark rituals involve human and animal sacrifices, and seeing a connection to the distinct scar on her hand, Rosario concludes that her grandmother had cursed her. Rosario calls her father, Oscar, who is on his way to meet her, to share her shocking discovery. She tells him she believes Griselda cursed her for siding with Oscar's side of the family when he and her late mother, Elena, divorced. Oscar insists that Griselda was proud of Rosario and would never have done anything to hurt her. Determined to break the curse, Rosario returns to the hidden chamber, where she is confronted by a haunting vision of Griselda as a demonic creature. Suddenly, her phone goes off, and after lighting a candle, Rosario manages to find a grimoire. Following its instructions to break the supposed spell, she learns it requires both her blood and Griselda's. She uses a knife to cut herself and collect her blood. When it's Griselda's turn, Rosario discovers there is no blood in her fingers or wrists. Just as she is about to slash Griselda's neck, her phone suddenly turns on, playing a voicemail from her grandmother apologizing and asking for forgiveness. At that moment, Rosario is overwhelmed by terrifying supernatural events, attacked by multiple hands and a demonic creature. Joe returns to Griselda's apartment, and in response to Rosario's questions, he insists that Griselda was proud of her, saying he heard her praying for Rosario every night. Now believing that Griselda made a pact with Cobain to protect her from an unknown evil, Rosario resolves to break the bond. Since the ritual requires Griselda to be alive, but she is already dead, Rosario decides to trap Cobain inside her grandmother's corpse. However, just as she begins the ritual, she is suddenly interrupted by the arrival of the paramedics and Marty, who have come to take Griselda's body away. Despite Marty knocking at the door, Rosario refuses to open it and instead hides herself and her grandmother's corpse in the hidden room. However, the demonic creature appears again and attacks her. When Marty and the paramedics finally enter the apartment, they find it empty. Marty notices the hidden room but chooses not to open it, and he and the paramedics leave. The demonic creature also disappears, and Rosario soon discovers that Griselda's corpse is missing. Suddenly, the room begins to shake again, and Rosario finds Griselda's corpse hanging from the ceiling. After retrieving the body, she continues with the ritual. When she finishes, a hand emerges from Griselda's mouth and slams her head against the wall. Her efforts trigger a series of haunting experiences, including an encounter with her dead mother. During this moment, they reconcile over their troubled past, but suddenly, her mother transforms into a demonic creature and begins tormenting her, forcing Rosario to relive one of Griselda's memories, her harrowing journey across the American border in search of a better life for their Mexican family. Back in the present, the demonic creature, revealed to be Cobain, begins to taunt Rosario. However, she stands her ground and starts the ritual again. The ordeal ends when Rosario's final incantation forces the demonic spirit into Griselda's corpse, after which Rosario collapses and falls unconscious. The following morning, she is awakened by Oscar, who has arrived at the apartment, and Rosario notices that the symbol on her palm is gone. She doesn't mention the ordeal to her father, and while they pray together, an ambulance arrives and the paramedics take Griselda's corpse away. While cleaning the apartment together, Oscar finds the air fryer that Joe had been looking for. He heads to the bathroom, and as Rosario looks through their family album, she notices something unsettling: blood on her father's hand in one of the pictures. Suspicious, Rosario goes to the secret room and finds her father already there. She realizes it was Oscar, not Griselda, who made the deal with the demon. Oscar admits that during Rosario's first communion celebration, he broke into Griselda's sanctum and used her magic to give Rosario the better life he felt he couldn't provide. However, the pact required a blood sacrifice. When Griselda discovered what he had done, she took it upon herself to offer her own blood regularly, using sacrificial rituals to protect Rosario from the entity. The scars on Griselda's body reveal years of self-inflicted wounds made to appease the spirits. Oscar vows to continue the ritual in her place, but his first sacrifice triggers a monstrous transformation. Now fully possessed by Cobain, he attacks Rosario, but before he can harm her, Joe arrives to defend her. However, Oscar is too powerful. He brutally throws Joe around the room before snapping his neck, killing him. Rosario uses the moment to kill her father, seemingly ending the curse. 6 months later, Rosario's continued professional success allows her to help her office's struggling doorman, Miguel, open an investment account with his wife. After the couple leaves, Rosario begins to pray, but suddenly, she starts coughing violently, until a gnarled hand unexpectedly thrusts out of her mouth. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Rosario from 2025. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.